Hi guys and welcome to Premier League Week 2, and we start with the lunchtime kickoff at 12:30 tomorrow at Cardiff versus Newcastle. I thought Newcastle were rather naive last week, with the way they were defending. The two goals that they conceded against Tottenham. In the second goal, Dele Alli was just unmarked at the back post. It's really naive, defending. Obviously Cardiff aren't going to be as strong, as Newcastle, as Tottenham would be. And I'm going to go for a really tight game in this one. I can't remember how Cardiff got on last week, but I think this one is going to be a really tight game. It's Cardiff's first game in the Premier League at home, but I do think it's going to be a really tight, tough game. So I'm going to go Cardiff 1, Newcastle 1. We go to the 3 o'clock kickoffs now, and we have Tottenham versus Fulham. And again, there were times last week where you saw that Tottenham probably needed improving. Obviously, the transfer window is closed now, so they just have to do with what they've got. I do think that it will gel together. Obviously, they haven't bought any players, so it's a group of players that all know each other really well. And I think it will just take time, just to get back on your feet. But I do think that they will improve. I think it was just a little bit of match sharpness last week. But I think that they'll beat Fulham quite comfortably. Actually, it's Tottenham's first game at home of the Premier League this season. Well, it's at Wembley, but it's their first technical home game of the season. So I'm going to go Tottenham 2, Fulham 0. We then have West Ham versus Bournemouth. I thought West Ham did quite well until they conceded the first goal against Liverpool, and then it was just they just crumbled. I know Liverpool's a very hard side, and West Ham wasn't really expecting to get much at Anfield. But again, and I think the third goal was offside as well, maybe for Liverpool. But I think Liverpool were just far too strong for them. Bit of a better competition for Bournemouth, for West Ham this week. They're going up against Bournemouth, so I'm going to go for a tight game in this one. I'm going to go West Ham 1, Bournemouth 1. We then have Leicester versus Wolves. I thought Leicester were very unlucky, not to get at least a point against Manchester United last week. I thought they did really well. Again, naive though, to handball the ball, in the box right in front of the referee. No need to do it. Don't know what the run up from Pogba was, but it fooled the keeper, didn't it? I suppose sometimes you don't really get what you deserve, and sometimes you deserve what you don't. So I think that's probably what the case that Leicester was last week. Manchester United obviously are the better side, and they just saw it through. I thought Wolves had a very good game against Everton. I think the red card probably helped them a little bit. It wasn't a red card. I mean, let's get it right. If that's a red card, then what the hell are the game turning into? But again, I think this one's going to be a really tight, tough game as well. It's a bit of a derby, this one as well, Leicester Wolves. So I'm going to go Leicester 1, Wolves 1. We then have Everton versus Southampton. Like I said, I think I can't get my words out today. I think Everton would have gone on to win last week against Wolves had they not got that red card. It was a really good game, but I do think that red card probably kind of spoiled Everton's game a little bit. But I do think that they will beat Southampton quite comfortably. I'm going to go Everton 2, Southampton 0. At 5:30, we have Chelsea versus Arsenal. Quite interesting about Arsenal last week against Manchester City. Again, Emery's just come in. It's going to take time to gel. There were times last week where we looked promising, and I thought, I can see the way he's trying to get us to play. There were also times in the game where we were very much like how Wenger set us up. Like I said, again, naive defending. Backing with the first goal, backing off, and then Sterling just had a shot and it goes in the back of the net. The second goal, very similar. You've got to learn how to close these men down. You've got to be sharper. You've got to be on the tail. And I just feel like it will take time. No one's expecting Arsenal to do anything this year. Possibly the only thing that we would like to get is probably we'll be looking at is maybe top 4, but nothing's going to happen seriously for maybe this season or maybe even next season. It's going to take time for Emery to get his tactics right and to get this sorted. We've seen with Manchester United they haven't won the title since Ferguson left. these things take time. It takes years, maybe 4 or 5 years. You know, they've had a few different managers as well. Manchester United, they've had Moyes and Mourinho. Who's the other one? Van Gaal as well. So, you know, these things take time. It's not an overnight thing. So, I do feel that we can get something against Chelsea. You know, again, I think changes will be made for Manchester City. Let's not forget, Manchester City are just something out of this world. You know, they're you know, everybody else is here and they're just like all the way up there. You know, you don't touch them. Pep Guardiola is a fantastic manager. You know, so obviously Chelsea aren't going to be as strong, you know, as Manchester City. I do think that Arsenal can get something out of this game. So I'm going to go Chelsea 1, Arsenal 1. Very good win for Chelsea against Huddersfield last week as well. So I'm looking forward to this game as well. So, you know, we'll see how that one pans out. So we now go to Sunday's fixtures. And at 1:30, we've got 2 1:30 games. We have Manchester City versus Huddersfield. And again, like I said, with Manchester City and Arsenal last week, you know, they absolutely annihilated Arsenal in parts of that game. And being at home against Huddersfield, no disrespect, but you can't see no problems there. Yes, strange things have happened in football, but, you know, 9 times out of 10, you'd expect, you know, Manchester City to walk all the way through Huddersfield. So I'm going to go Manchester City 3, Huddersfield 1. The second 1:30 game, we have Burnley versus Watford. I think that's going to be a very, very tight, tough game. So I'm going to go Burnley 1, Watford 1. Let's not forget Burnley did very, very well last season as well. So maybe their expectations is to go that little bit further and then maybe get themselves a European spot this year. Who knows? Maybe even an FA Cup or a League Cup, you know. So we'll see. At 4 o'clock, we have Brighton versus Manchester United. Like I said, Manchester United didn't play their best last week against Leicester. But obviously, class came into play and they just saw out the game. Leicester pulled one back and they just managed to see out the game. So good tactics, I suppose, if you like. I think Brighton will struggle against Manchester United, even though it is at home. I'm going to go Brighton 0, Manchester United 2. And then 8 o'clock on Monday, we have Crystal Palace versus Liverpool, a ground that Liverpool have not enjoyed for the last couple of seasons. But what I saw of Liverpool last week, and how I've seen them for like maybe the past 9-10 months, I really do feel that that's a team coming together. And like I think I predicted last week that they'll be the team to finish second, probably the closest team after Manchester City to be challenging for the title, in my personal opinion. So I think they'll win quite comfortably. I'm going to go Crystal Palace 0, Liverpool 2. So that has been my predictions for this weekend, guys. As you can tell, I got a little bit of a cold coming on. So, yeah, that's been my predictions for this weekend, guys. And I'll see you next week for next week's predictions. Thank you for watching, guys.